The United States Postal Service continues to struggle financially due to the pandemic, to the point where there's discussions about the government agency declaring bankruptcy. Now, USPS is asking Congress to help bail them out. However, the Postal Service was facing financial troubles long before the coronavirus pandemic. Here to discuss this further is the Director of Policy at Taxpayers Protection Alliance, Ross Marchand. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks. Great to be on your show.
Well, it seems more consumers are shopping online, especially in the midst of this pandemic. So how come USPS is struggling?
Well, they're simply, and this is a problem predating the pandemic, they are simply not being transparent about their prices. And to the extent that they are, and to the extent that we know how much they're charging large internet companies, they are underpricing their products. And this is creating a huge problem for their bottom line and ultimately for taxpayers.
That's something that the president touched on as well. Well, in the CARES Act, the agency can seek up to a $10 billion line of credit, but it now must be approved by the Treasury. And on Friday, President Trump urged USPS to raise its package and shipping rates by about fourfold before seeking aid from Congress. Should we expect the agency to follow those recommendations?
Unfortunately, it's not too encouraging based on their history. They have a history of recklessness and mismanaging their finances. But I think if there's enough pressure placed on them by the Trump administration, something can finally get done.
And the USPS, they employ over 630,000 workers. If the Treasury Department approves the Postal Service's $10 billion line of credit, how should the agency use it to prevent it from declaring bankruptcy?
The agency needs to use this in a way that prevents management from further mismanaging these funds and making sure that, for example, all of this money is going to fulfill the mandate of serving customers rather than, for example, purchasing an electric fleet of trucks and way overspend money. Because money is in such finite supply, USPS needs to make sure this is going to customers and not bureaucrats and middlemen.
And there's also some discussion among conservatives about privatizing the Postal Service. How likely could we see that happening?
The truth is that no one, and I repeat, no one wants to privatize the Postal Service. What we need are reforms to save the Postal Service. And unless we see those reforms, USPS will run out of cash and millions of Americans will not be able to get their mail.
And you talk about these reforms. What sort of reforms should USPS implement in order from it to declare bankruptcy?
Well, just to give you one of many examples, the Postal Service needs to stop paying contractors. They have this problem where they just systematically overpay contractors. And that right there, that one seemingly small reform, that could add up to more than $1 billion in annual savings for taxpayers. And they also, needless to say, they need to get their pricing right. The president is absolutely correct on that point.
It'll be interesting to see what could happen amidst all of this and the pandemic, to see how the USPS, if they will use that $10 billion line of credit. Of course, it has to be approved by the Treasury. That's what the president said on Friday. Ross Marchand, thank you so much for your input.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube. And call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.